And the truth of the matter is you're getting a glimpse right now at how your current lifestyle is working for you. Because the plan you're currently on was precisely designed to get you exactly here. And so if you see a score that is subpar or not as well as you would like it to be, even better, just know that this is a baseline and this is a glimpse of where you're at right now in this season. And we're going to be able to make several recommendations for you that are going to help turn this around. I'm excited for you because I've already helped so many people do this that I already know the types of things you're going to see in 2 weeks, in 2 months, in a year, in 2 years. The longer you can continue to get better blood flow in, the slower you're aging, and actually reversing, finding better versions of yourselves.
Welcome to The Functional Edge. I'm Dr. Julia Ward, and this is where science meets real-world strategies for living healthier, sharper, and stronger. From uncovering hidden environmental toxins to unlocking peak performance and mental clarity, we cover it all. Ready to take control of your health and thrive? Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome to the Functional Edge podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Julia Ward, Medical Director and founder of Balanced Body Functional Medicine. Today, we're honored to welcome Dr. Mark DeBrincat to our show. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Such a pleasure to be here.
Great. Can you share the story behind your transition from chiropractor to the good news doctor? What moments shaped your interest in microvascular health and the GlycoCheck?
Sure, I'd love to. So I've always been fascinating about cardiovascular health. And unfortunately, when I was 10 years old, I woke up to my dad having a heart attack and paramedics doing the whole jumpstart your chest game. And it was quite vivid and quite shocking. And I thought I was going to lose him. And I kind of made a pact with myself that day that I'm not going to end up like that. Whatever I have to do to avoid that, let's go there. And so I was raised by very healthy parents, despite the fact that he had a heart attack, very much into natural eating and health and avoiding toxins. And I was one of those kids that was deprived of sugar and sodas and candy and all that stuff growing up. And I felt deprived at the time, but looking back, like, you know what? I'm the only one of my friends that never got sick all the time, and I always healed really fast. Unfortunately, I had a really bad accident, a head-on collision that left me disabled for a lot of years and had to overcome all possibilities of getting my abilities back. And, I worked really hard at realizing that the body is always making new cells, and I can't get away from the fact that I have a lot of damaged tissues in my body, but there is hope because your body's always trying to make a better version of those cells the next time around. And with the exception of your brain, you've got a lifespan for each different type of cell. So that was a big part of the healing, just knowing that hang in there longer. Your body's got to go through a few more renditions of this tissue before you're going to get a clean one from before your traumas and such. And I was still doing all that I could do. And it was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it was like so many years. It took me 17 years to finally crack the code. And it was when I started putting my attention into microcirculation. I really believed that because of the scarring and all this damaged tissues, it was really more of a blood flow issue, that I wasn't getting enough blood flow in. So I started investigating PEMF devices that could put a pulse magnetic frequency into your body to stimulate nitric oxide release, and all of a sudden blood started to flow. It was remarkable. Within just a few months of using these devices, I started to have more abilities. I started to see things change for the positive. And so I knew microcirculation was a very key component to it. And then, unfortunately, I had a heart attack, just like my father, but 8 years later than he did. I was 8 years older than he was. And so there was some certain genetic factors in play. But here's the thing. I've always been upset when I hear statistics like the first sign of heart disease, 70% of the time, is sudden death. That's always gotten under my skin. Like, how? We live in such an amazing time with the best emergency medical procedures and doctors on the planet right here in the US. Why can't we have any type of better prediction factor? Yeah. And so I did so much research over the years to try to crack the code to that answer. that I never could get a good solid answer for until I met Dr. Hansvink and Bob Long and this amazing camera. I was actually on a waiting list to spend $250,000 on a camera that would just show me the blood flow, not do any analysis whatsoever. And I was so excited. Like, if I could show somebody their own blood, oh, that would be a game changer. And then I meet these guys, and there's all these metrics that they can determine from the analyzing the most amazing videos that I've ever seen of the blood. And I'm like, this is what we need, what we needed. This is truly the answer to that lifelong question. If I just had a better prediction factor to know I was at risk, I probably would have treated myself a little better before the heart attack. How many people have a heart attack and they're like, I'll eat right, I'll start exercising, I promise I will stop being so lazy and get my butt off the couch and start moving.
Yeah.
And it takes an event to make that happen. Well, I've seen for 4 years now, people see live immersive videos into their own life. They change almost immediately. Like, I am going to eat better. I have to improve that score. I don't like having that risk factor. So I worked really hard at trying to reverse this. I had 100% blockage in my widowmaker, so they put a stent in. And then my other major arteries still had blockages, but not quite big enough for them to want to put a stent in. And so I did dairy-free for a year, thinking that has to improve my plaque buildup and all that. They came out so happy that it didn't get worse. And I was so mad that it didn't get better because that was a hard diet for me. So then my wife convinces me that I do want to live and I need to be a vegetarian. And then I could get all these things out of my system that might be causing plaque buildup and this heart disease. So I did that for a year. I did one vegan for that matter. And it was still the same thing. It like hadn't got worse, hadn't got better. And they're congratulating me. I've stopped it in my tracks. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to get it better. So I went back to my old carnivore diet. That's where I tend to feel the best and had the best energy for my blood type or what have you. And I met these guys 3 months before my third year's test after my heart attack. And I didn't get the camera yet, so I didn't have a baseline score, which I really wanted to have before I started taking it. But my wife reminded me that I do have heart disease and they're willing to give me the product. I would be a fool not to take it. So I literally double dosed it, went in, had the scan. Now these guys come out all worried, scratching their head. And I'm thinking, ooh, what's the meat and the cheese, right? And they're like, what? No. Not that. And I'm like, oh, well, what's the problem? Like, we can't figure it out. All your plaque is gone. And I'm like, seriously? Like Scooby-Doo and my ears popping up like, what? And they're like, yeah, I just don't understand it. This doesn't usually happen. And the thing is how did I have a heart attack? I was getting stress tests every year. Like, that didn't make any sense. But I guess I had equal blockage in all of them to where it didn't make one of them pop out of bounds to show itself. So it's false negatives year after year after year because I equally get this plaque growing in all my major vessels. So again, how does that happen? Now it doesn't have to happen. Because I realized pretty quickly after meeting these guys that 1% of our vascular system is what we've been putting our focus on all this time. And by the time the 1% of the big vessels have issues, you've got so much damage in the small vessels before that ever happens. And they had been able to validate that to the tune of multiple conditions and backtrace it to say these conditions all started because of poor vascular management. And this glycocalyx, which is there to protect the wall, has so much damage in it. You're leaking everywhere. You're getting plaque built up everywhere. And, it's the intelligence of our vascular system. So if we're not taking care of it, the lining is there to protect you, but it's not just like an iron door. It's an intelligent protection. It's like these fine hairs. Well, I don't want to get into a different topic. So
So how many months were you on the supplement before they,
just 3 months. 3 months of double dosing it. So I was taking 8 capsules a day.
So for listeners new to this, how would you describe the glycocalyx and why do you call it the Teflon hair lining of our blood vessels?
So again, years ago, over 30 years ago, when I was in medical school, they would show us these videos of a microvessel, and they would explain to us that the capillaries, which are the tiniest vessels, you have 65,000 miles of them all wrapped up tightly inside of your body. And if you lined them up in a single file line, You would stretch your body around the entire earth 2.5 times. To me, that's just so mind blowing. And they'd show us these images and they'd say, oh, by the way, the cell walls that build these microvessels, it's only one cell layer thick. And then I'm like, no, I don't believe you. Like, that doesn't happen. How can I not just change directions at the store and not pop everywhere and leak?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's that gel, I guess, that's called lumen is all they could say what it was at the time. And they'd show us the image, and you see this hairline of a dark line on both sides of a blood that's moving through it. And that's the actual cell wall. And it truly was one cell layer thick. And the space that was in between the wall and the blood moving through, it was like a barrier. And it's like, why doesn't the blood bounce into the wall? I mean, how does it just stay in the middle right there? And they would tell me it's just a gel. It's called lumen. Now sit down, Mark. And I'm like, no, really, like, how can gel stick to the wall? It doesn't make any sense. And like, why isn't it washing away with the blood? I'll just sit down and stop asking questions. And I'm like, these are valid questions. And I gotta have the answer. And I never knew.
Sounds like they didn't know the answer.
They didn't know the answer either. It wasn't until Dr. Hans Vink invented this microscope, which was a little over, I think it was 22 years ago, that he was the first one to be able to capture images of the hair metrics. And so if you look really close into that gel, it's almost like a shag carpet. And it's just polysaccharide hairs that are, I mean, think if you had real thick hair, like a military cut and something bumped into your head, you're not going to cut your skin. It's going to protect it and it's going to kind of bounce off the hairline, okay, as far as the thickness of your hair. So when you have that, and then we put gel into it, like if I had hair gel and put gel, it's almost like concrete. Now it could be really hard or stiff. This doesn't get hard or stiff. It just has molecules in there, the same molecules that you're making from every cell of your body. And these are called redox signaling molecules, and they embed themselves into the gel, and they become the intelligence of the lining. Like the lining has its own molecules that are neutralizing things that are trying to get in that shouldn't get in, and they're preventing that from happening. And so it's a chemical exchange of electricity. It's an electrical dance at the of a molecule level, dancing electrons around molecules that are becoming the grounding mat of your entire body because they're negatively charged, and the toxins and things that we breathe in and get exposed to are positively charged. So they're going to go around and cause what's called oxidative stress. We need these molecules that are embedded in the lining of our vessels to neutralize those stresses so that we can get the most out of our blood. And then the blood travels from big vessels down to the big vessels have muscles that are squeezing. Those are arteries. The medium-sized vessels dilate with releasing nitric oxide to compensate the difference in pressures with each pulse in each pump. And then the glycocalyx is the tiny, tiny capillaries at the end of the tunnel where the arteries switch over to veins. And then that red blood cell brings waste material back to the lungs. And in 120 days, one single red blood cell is going to make that trip 75,000 times. That is so amazing to me. But each blood cell has to get through the drains. That's when the arteries turn into veins. And that's where the glycocalyx is the richest. And that is truly the foundation of your health. It's not what we eat and digest. It's what we can break down, assimilate, and absorb that matters, and where that matters. If we don't have proper blood flow, we are not going to get the nutrients and the oxygen into those tissues. So what does that mean? That means your densest tissues like your kidneys and your heart and your pancreas and other glands, they start to suffer first. If it's a tight, dense tissue, you need more of the tiniest vessels. And guess what? Those are the ones that are damaged first, is the tiniest ones, because they're at the end of the tunnel taking all the abuse. A red blood cell literally has to squeeze its way in because it can't fit.
Can you walk us through a GlycoCheck scan, like how it works, what it measures, and why it's such a breakthrough for assessing microvascular health?
And so this camera, as I mentioned, is astonishing. And the fact that it is so simple and easy to learn how to use, and then to actually facilitate it, it's a test that only takes a few minutes. And you take a camera that's about the diameter of your toothbrush, and you just lay it underneath your tongue and then gently close your mouth. And it's a microscopic camera. So just little movements of your hand can make things move very quickly on the screen. But you're going to see a very robust amount of live activity of blood cells, like ants taking your picnic away from all the food from your picnic
Yeah.
in all different directions. And so we try to quickly find the place that looks like it has the most intersections, the most activity happening. And then we want to just hold real still. And every 3 seconds, it records 9 videos of what you're seeing. And so then it's going to, at the end of about 5 minutes, let's just say, it will have recorded 300,000 videos, because every video, they take every vessel in the video and make a separate video for each one in there. So sometimes just your 3 seconds is going to yield hundreds of videos. And we're doing 9 of those every 3 seconds. So you can imagine 300,000 videos to assess damage, to assess how many there are, to assess how much blood is actually going through, how much is actually being absorbed, and what's my complete risk factor of having a vascular incident today.
Yeah.
And so those 300,000 videos turns into 300 million calculations to get that data. And then that is what your total microvascular health score is. You have a range typically of 1 to 10, but it's not a roof at 10. You can keep getting healthier and healthier. 5 is going to be your average score. That's the yellow zone, is like between 3 and 5 on our scale from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And 5 would be average for your age and gender.
Yeah.
That's a typical healthy person in that area, which is the normal risk factors, which means 70% of the time you're not going to know something's happening. Just like we know, those are our risk factors. You can look at things like, high cholesterol, being overweight increases that risk, and so obviously there's metrics that we can take with our blood and our body to know we have risk. Take care of those things first. But guess what? Healthy people that aren't overweight and that don't smoke still have heart attacks. So,
Yeah.
how can we picture that? So if your score drops below a 3, now this isn't a concern, because usually your kidney score, which is called your GFR, your glomerular filtration rate, usually we'll see that start to slowly drop as your kidneys are slowly failing.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, your average doctor is not going to mention anything about kidney failure until you enter stage 4 kidney failure. There's only 5 stages. So it's usually really hard to turn it around by that point.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, they used to warn you at 80%, function versus 100 is where we want to be.
Right.
And so we have the ability now to predict, well, this is probably bad. Then we look and guess what? It is bad. And so there's a validation here in the beginning when they first started publishing studies. Now, let me mention as a sidebar, we have over 200 research hospitals and universities that have been publishing studies now since 2009 using this camera. And one of the very first ones was a validation study. And for a couple thousand tests, they would do operations on people. They'd come in with the camera and say, oh, you're doing brain surgery today. They put the camera right inside the brain once they're in the middle of their surgery, and then under the tongue, and guess what? Same score.
Wow.
They put it inside the heart before a heart transplant with the bad faulty heart or the valve that's bad.
Yeah.
And under the tongue, same score.
Wow.
A failing kidney before the kidneys be replaced or removed. Under the tongue, same score. So whatever crisis you have going on in your body, it's going to affect those same size vessels systemically everywhere. And when we're looking under the tongue, these are unique vessels because they're replaced every 8 days, 14. And so they're real quick turnover. So if you already have damage in any size vessel in an 8-day period, that same size vessel has systemic damage throughout. And that was what that validation study did. Other vessels take anywhere from 90, 120 days. Some of them take a year or 6 months before they replace themselves. So that damage could take a while for your body to make a better version of those cells.
Wow. What kinds of early symptoms like cold hands, fatigue, brain fog are often linked to microvascular breakdown before traditional labs pick up anything?
Yeah, like you just mentioned, those are some of the top ones. You can include ED into that as well.
Yep.
Diabetes,
Erectile dysfunction.
blood sugar problems, usually starting with poor glycocalyx as well. I can
Hair
pull
loss.
up a list. Definitely hair loss,
Yeah.
fatigue, insomnia,
Mm-hmm.
poor immune response, like
Mm-hmm.
frequent colds or coughs.
Yeah.
We also have things like vision problems, cold hands and feet,
Yeah.
in the extremities, though that seems to catch on early in the things like diabetes.
Yeah.
And start to see that. We said hair thinning, lack of focus, and memory loss. Those are big ones as well.
Yeah.
Hormone imbalances like PMS, blood cramps, hearing loss can be another one as well. We mentioned type 2 diabetes and, of course, blood pressure.
Yeah.
Blood pressure is one of the things that we seem to see turn around the fastest.
Yeah.
Once people could find out the solution starts with, fixing the linings of your vessels and let the vessels actually start to function better.
Yes. Yes. That's been what I've noticed so far in our patients is that their blood pressure starts normalizing pretty quick.
Yeah, I've seen a couple weeks even.
Yeah.
They start to get up from sitting down and they'll feel lightheaded and a little dizzy. And it's like,
Mhm.
that's a good sign that go get your meds titrated. Talk to your doctor that puts you on.
Yes. How do you explain the GlycoCheck results to patients in a way that feels clear and motivating?
So there's 7 gauges on the side. And the truth of the matter is you're getting a glimpse right now at how your current lifestyle is working for you. Because the plan you're currently on was precisely designed to get you exactly here. And so if you see a score that is subpar or not as well as you would like it to be, even better, just know that this is a baseline and this is a glimpse of where you're at right now in this season. And we're going to be able to make several recommendations for you that are going to help turn this around. I'm excited for you because I've already helped so many people do this that I already know the types of things you're going to see in 2 weeks, in 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
in a year, in 2 years. The longer you can continue to get better blood flow in, the slower you're aging, and actually reversing, finding better versions of yourselves.
Yeah.
So we have an overall score that gives us, okay, you're generally healthy. Congratulations. Things in your lifestyle is working well for you. However, you're not optimally healthy, and so if really trying to find the best version of yourself, we can help you do that. And here's the parts of the test that are pointing out that you have some trouble with. And so we have 7 metrics, like I already mentioned. The first 3, it's just the density of the smallest vessels at the very end of the tunnel. Think of a tree and how many branches are on that tree. Now, we talk about how many of each size branch. When we get to the leaf, that's the tiniest branch, hands down. And there's more of them than any other size branch. Okay, and so when we get to the end of our tunnel, those 4 microns, we have twice as many of those as we have 5s. And we have twice as many 5s as we have 6s. So literally over 90% of your capillaries are 4, 5, and 6, even though they go all the way to 25 microns wide.
Wow.
Before they turn into venules,
Yeah.
which is the middle-sized vessel.
Yeah.
And so the majority of them are right at the end of the tunnel. So I can tell you in those first 3 gauges, if I were standing in front of a forest right now, I would want to only see 10 feet in because the trees are so dense I can't see past them.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not you. Okay. With your vessels, I can see 200 yards back because these trees are spread out so much. You've had a lot of damage. We have this long haul situation that people that have damaged a lot of their vascular system from the spike protein now never regained all of that. And we can see how much is lost, how much is actually damaged, how much density do you have left. That's a big starting area to at least know I'm improving, okay? Or it would be getting worse because it doesn't just improve without intent. Yes, there's healing that's taking place, but there's things that we can introduce to you that would facilitate aggressive healing and the repair to happen in a way that would never happen without the amount of nutrient that you're getting. Just to put this into example, there's a supplement that we'll talk about in a moment, I'm sure, that is the solution to regrowing that glycocalyx. You would have to eat, there's a seaweed in there called fucoidin, and you would have to eat a 75-pound bushel of that every single day to get what you're getting out of 1 scoop. And so It's just not possible to facilitate the amount of vascular lining growth without something as potent as this. And so those are the first three gauges. I mentioned there's 7 gauges. The next one is telling me how much recruitment capacity do we have available. And so a warning sign that you might not have good recruitment capacity is you get winded quickly when you start exercising, or maybe even walking up a flight of stairs can kind of take your breath away a little bit and you're feeling fatigue. So every vessel at rest has what we call 50% capacity of blood flow, which means you have a size of a red blood cell and then a space the equal size, and then another red blood cell, and then an equal size space. And so 50% of whatever length of vessel you're looking at has blood in it. That's considered normal and healthy at rest. Now, you might have some of those that are spread out further, and there's a lot of space in between them. They wouldn't count as my trees in the density. So part of the more trees popping up is just getting better blood flow in some of these vessels that have some blockages that are slowing things down, and they're not considered healthy. The other part is we grow the lining and it actually starts wiggling and bringing in vessels. Nitric oxide's released and more blood starts coming in. And so they were still there, they just weren't functioning. And the third way is just to grow more new vessels, and try to replace the ones that you've lost. So the recruitment capacity shows me how much do you have on reserve? Because when I go from sitting and resting to walking, those spaces in between the red blood cells are gone. Now I'm at 100% capacity for that vessel. If I start going into a little jog, I got to pull in another vessel next to that one, also at 100% capacity. So now I have 200% more than I had at rest. And if I start running, I'm going to pull in one from the other side of that vessel. We have little recruitment vessels on the side of every vessel to give us more blood when we need it. And so if I can see that you exercise and now you have 300% more blood flow in there, that is a very healthy, normal response. But if I put you through that stress test and nothing changes in the small vessels, they're not there. There was nowhere else to push that blood through. So recruitment capacity is the 4th gauge. The 5th one tells us how much blood's actually being absorbed. So there's an ideal speed for that transition of oxygen into your tissue to happen. And if it's going too slow, you're just not getting enough oxygen. And if it goes too fast, it's pushing it through the area so quickly it wasn't able to unload. And so it left with oxygen still in it. It's like it get back to the lungs and like, why do you still have groceries in the trunk? I tried to let them out, but I couldn't get into the neighborhoods. They were all blocked. I had to just stay on the highway and pass right by. I'm sorry. Just give me some more. I'll try the next time around. And they got 75,000 trips to figure that out. And so that is the total volume that's being absorbed. And then the 6th gauge is that glycocalyx damage that we talked about. It's called your perfuse boundary region. Is that boundary region there or is it gone? And if it's gone, you're at very high risk. In fact, Dr. Julia, that one gauge is probably the one that holds the most weight on the whole report, because that's showing us how much systemic inflammation do you have going on. And your cells, whether it's your brain or whether it's any cells in your body, they're only dealing with 2 kinds of stress, either being oxidized and deteriorating or taking the charge away, or it's being inflamed, trying to put out that oxidation. And so those are the 2 stresses that it has, and it just needs blood flow in order to help your body neutralize that stress. Think of it like your brain is only 2% of your body weight, yet it requires 20% of your blood just because it's on fire. And so you have to put out that oxidative stress so much. And so if you have poor blood flow, all brain function is affected first, because your brain cells are about 2.5 million times more important than any other cell in your body, because it has 250 million engines making energy inside of them compared to a few hundred in our other cells. And so it really does require more blood. The listeners may not know, but we don't have a lymphatic system in our brain. We need to have our brain cells get blood. Okay. It brings all of the nutrients and everything in. And then at night, they shrink. And then spinal fluid raises up like all the streets are being cleaned out. We'll let the garbage out of your brain cells, and then the spinal fluid pushes all that out. And then it gets back into the lymphatic system from the top of your head. But if people don't sleep and you don't have blood flow to facilitate these things happening, you get buildup of amyloid plaques in your brain. This is the beginning of our dementia and Alzheimer's and other conditions relating to cognitive decline. And it is absolutely related to blood flow and of course, the cell signaling. We have to keep our cells signaling. And what carries the signals? Blood. Yay. You've guessed it. Again, kind of important. So I love the fact that we can now give people insight that, you know what? I know you've been stressed out about heart issues, but from the microvascular perspective, you're amazing. You have great blood flow. You have very little risk of having a vascular incident. I love having those types of consults with patients because, feeling like something's wrong with you creates a whole bunch of stress that is affecting you physically just from your thoughts alone. So having this peace of mind of feeling like I'm not going to have any more heart attacks. When I asked the doctor, how did all my plaque go away? Like, that's crazy. And how did it happen so fast? And why didn't I have a stroke if that much plaque was released and it went downstream? 15 years of using this product, the company has never had any contraindications. And so what Dr. Hans explained to me is, the plaque only sticks to the wall if there's no hair there to protect it, right? So it causes a scab and then it sticks to the scab. Okay. And it doesn't just stick to the glycocalyx, it can't. And so what had happened is I started to actually grow new glycocalyx up from underneath the bottom of my plaque. And all it has to do, kind of like when you have a scab and it doesn't fall off, but it's starting to peel up a little bit. And you know that I'll just leave it alone. I don't want a scar. Just kind of let my body do its thing. Eventually it'll pop off.
Yeah.
So as soon as the hair starts growing up, it's like a layer of skin that's growing up underneath it. And it pushes it off the surface just a little bit. So your white blood cells can swim up underneath it and get inside and they eat it up right there on the spot. So there's nothing even to go downstream. And that's the mechanism of action of how your body deals with plaque. Yeah. And you know what? It's doing it all the time. You got a little bit of plaque here, your body remodels it, puts it over there. And it's always trying to fix it naturally. But sometimes you got too much going on else in the body and that's not as much of a priority. That's going to go try to save your life first and deal with the plaque later. Right. Or we can get the resources to give our body what it needs to refuel and replenish and repair and rejuvenate. That's what this product is all about.
That's great. That is awesome. What are your go-to lifestyle supplement interventions? I guess this is where we could talk about the Revasca.
The Revasca. So there's two that we love that really tie to the benefits that we can see with this camera. And the first one's called Revasca. And this is a very robust, it's organic, it's natural, it's vegan, it's non-GMO, it's gluten-free. Like I said, there's no contraindications. You can take this with your medicine. You can take it on an empty stomach. And it was developed by going through the blue zones in the world where people generally live to be over 100 years old. And they're like, what are you guys eating? And so even though these are things that are in the diet, it's such a huge concentration of that seaweed, like I mentioned. These people have been eating it their whole life. They've been around this type of nutrient their whole life. We're just adding it into our diet. So we're making up for lost time by being able to get it super concentrated. But it really is an amazing product that is been patented to literally grow back the glycocalyx. A lot of companies patent their ingredients, the secret formula of our ingredient. That's not what this is about. This is about restoration and rejuvenation and revitalizing that glycocalyx that's going to protect you and help your system function better. And guess what? Your body is doing 400 million bits of data information from your nervous system every second, trying to keep your body in homeostasis. That's all it wants to do is keep your vital signs in alignment. And if it can do that and stay there, you can do all sorts of extra healing in your body. But if you have poor circulation, you have poor nutrition and poor digestion and elimination and absorption and all of those things, it doesn't matter what your outside world's going through. If your inside world is not healthy, you can never be better than your outside world. I think I said that correctly. Your inside world always has to be better than your outside world. Your outside world will not sustain if you don't have the health from within. And so I am all about helping people find their next amazing medical breakthrough. And this is one of the very first products that we introduce, not because they have a condition. We all have blood flow issues. We all have had things get into our blood in these last 4 years that should never have gotten into our blood. And it's the thing that was created to destroy the glycocalyx. In 30 years of looking at this, or 25 years, how long it's been, they have never seen anything stick to the glycocalyx. It's just impossible. It doesn't happen. It pushes it off immediately.
Yeah.
These spike proteins are actually the same size of the 4 micron vessel. So they get to the end of the tunnel and clog it and then stick to the glycocalyx like a burr. Like if you went into the woods and had a burr stuck on your clothes, it's very hard to get off.
Yeah.
It sticks in there, and if it does come off, it rips all the glycocalyx with it.
Is that
And
why
so
COVID was so deadly for so many people?
it really was. It just took out 80 to 90% of their small vessels.
Right.
So they couldn't get the blood into the tissue, and it was slowly killing them until the vascular incident did. In most cases. But it's really sad how they called it just COVID death, but really those spike proteins went to your most vulnerable area in your body when you've had previous injuries or diseases, and it went right there and just stirred it all up. And they call it a COVID death, but really it was whatever organ they gave out. If you didn't have COVID, it would have been called that death.
Yeah.
It's weird how things got labeled weird, and just so many unnecessary losses. I've lost my dad and a couple of my uncles, and it was really unnecessary.
Really tragic. Well, how do you see the GlycoCheck influencing the future of preventative medicine and personalized cardiovascular care?
Well, I think from the very first moment I saw that camera, I knew that it would be a household name, and it would be something that everybody has to get scanned. They can't afford to not get scanned and then have a vascular incident come up and sneak up on them and surprise them. To me, it's a peace of mind. We can just think, hey, I'm healthy because I look healthy on the outside. You could have so many different things going on the inside and not know.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people get a diagnosis already at the end stage of something? You're like, end stage? You're just telling me now. It's like, what do you mean? I feel fine.
Yeah.
It's like you owe it to yourself, and there's nothing else on the planet that can look at your microvessels in this kind of detail. You can do a D-dimer score and see, okay, you have so much capillaries that are functioning, but that's very basic. That's not getting into, the actual damage and how many and how much blood and, what kind of density do we have. And they're just looking for end stage damage like that gets really hardcore. Now, I will say that we've done so many studies in ICU. We've studied sepsis. We've studied over 17 published studies on COVID. And when somebody's in ICU and we GlycoCheck scan them, they can predict with 100% accuracy how many days you have left.
Wow.
And that's kind of scary. At least they were able to predict on all the COVID patients that were in ICU.
Yeah. Well, I was really surprised when I scanned myself when we first got the camera, because I consider myself fairly healthy. I competed in bodybuilding competitions. I keep myself fairly lean. I'm very active. But when I scanned myself, like my microvascular health score was like less than 1.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show, I mean, there's been a lot of years of stress,
You mentioned that you're an athlete, you train hard and you're lean. And so if you think about that, a lot of athletes, and I'm not saying you've done this, but a lot of athletes overtrain. They work out every day and they don't give themselves enough time for repair. And when they get tighter and stronger and their muscles are just ripped and lean, well, guess what? You need 4, 5, and 6 micron vessels to feed those muscles now, like your kidneys. And you don't have enough of them. So your whole body starts to starve, and you have so much tense, tight muscles. You're going to go after kidneys first because that's most important. Your nervous system does, and so you could be suffering and look good on the outside, but you don't have enough density to support this for very long, and you're going to start having issues. You'll start to have atrophy. You'll start to have cramps. You'll start to not sleep well. I mean, all of those things catch up to us. I mean, I think I didn't have my camera when I started taking the product, but after taking it for 3 months, double dosing it, my first score was like a 3.8. So I was just barely out of the red, and that was with no plaque left. So I could only imagine when I have plaque everywhere, my dad started at like a one something, like a 1.6, I think. And then in 3 months, he was like a 3.6. And so I'm imagining I was in the ones also when I initially started. It took me about a year to get over 7. And now I'm around 12, or so. But there's people that are up in the 20s that, do all the right things and don't have the stress that we have. And the amount of things we put on our plate. That's the problem is we know we can help people. And so it's hard to say no. And we want to just keep helping more and more people.
Yeah. Yeah. So for practitioners curious about incorporating the GlycoCheck, what advice would you offer in terms of training cost and patient outcomes?
So the training is all built into the program. Like when you buy the system, you're going to get so much supplies, so many scans, and all of the training is included with that. So I have been in the brain space for most of my career, doing all sorts of different types of brain scans and body scans. And, there's a lot of bandwidth that a doctor needs to bring on a task like doing brain maps. You have to know a lot, and there's a learning curve that takes a while before you really feel confident and comfortable with explaining all the different types of damage that can happen in the brain and what our course of action is to try to help you come past all of these things. It's truly inspiring and it's amazing in and of itself, but it takes somebody that's totally committed to learn and dive into every aspect of it. I love the GlycoCheck camera because literally you and your staff can be trained within a couple hours and up and running the same day. It's very simple to do. It's easy to explain. We have lots of tools to give the patients that help them explain what their findings are as well. But it's a pretty simple message. It's where is your microvascular health? And then what are we going to do about it? The other product that I didn't mention was called Renew. And I would say it's like a multivitamin for your brain. It has methylated B vitamins, folate and B12 and B6, and then it has nanomolecules or nanoparticles in there to chelate heavy metals out of your brain and then help restore the blood-brain barrier. And so that's an amazing product. And these two products back to back, I've seen some incredible transformation in people's overall well-being. From people in ICU with different conditions. I've seen them for 4 years now. I've seen thousands of people get their lives turned around. And it starts with vascular in many people. And they just didn't realize what the problem was. And so for the practitioner, this is an amazing product. It's that white elephant in your town. You're the unique person. We've had people that come in and fly in from out of town just to get this scan done because I was the closest person to them. It's something that we can do a lunch and learn in a 15-minute presentation, have everybody that showed up in the room sign up to get scanned. They just want to know the answer. They want to see where they're at. They want that peace of mind that they're doing enough to prevent the inevitable, okay, at least anytime soon. And so I love that. And then it has actually grown so much. The whole system paid off the first month with as many patients that we had come in and get scanned. So it has been a great revenue source for the practice as well, and it can stand on its own. Okay, it can add to programs that you already have in your practice and just add this one piece to the puzzle to make that whole program be comprehended and understand it better, or it can just be its own scan in and of itself. And we also do blood screenings, vascular screenings, microvascular screenings, see what your potential is to have an incident. How well is your lifestyle working for you? I like that line because everybody thinks like you thought, hey, I'm healthy. I've been eating organic. I don't do gluten. I don't do sugar. I've been eating clean my whole life. I avoid toxins. I'm in shape. I'm not overweight at all. It's like, no, I'm healthy. Oh, man, I got a brain scan for the first time. My brain wasn't healthy. My vascular scan for the first time. Wow, my vascular scan is not very healthy either. It's like we could do so many things on the outside and yet still have imbalances on the inside that your typical doctor doesn't want to talk about because there's no medication for wellness. I guess is what that boils down to. But, we're outside the box thinkers, right? And we want to help people understand that you don't just follow the mainstream. Take responsibility for yourself. You're the only supply sergeant that cares what's going into your mouth. So you should care because you're the only one, right?
Right.
That's a big difference. And then be proactive in doing scans like this to help you understand what your risk is, at least once a year,
Yeah.
because a lot of things can happen in a year's time. And all of a sudden, you used to be healthy, you used to have great scores, and all of a sudden, hey, what happened? Okay,
Yeah.
well, we can tell by which gauge is out, most likely what's been going on. And it's not just like black and white, like, oh, you got a bad score. No, it's because this is gone or this is off here. So what's been going on in your life this week? And so usually we can see things, ask a few questions and pinpoint that makes more sense now. This is why this score is bad because that one factor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Are there any upcoming studies or innovations in microvascular assessment, like new markers or integrations with other diagnostics or expanded uses in various patient populations that you're especially excited about?
oh my gosh, that's something that would be a better question for Dr. Hans Vink to answer. These guys have so many ongoing studies. They've had, I think, 17 or 18 studies been released this year alone
Wow.
that were in multiple years in the making. And so they finally just came to fruition. So they've had, they have hundreds of studies that are in process right now. And now that we've gone public as far as people like yourself and other doctors that aren't researchers that want to have this in their private practice, that you can have them now. So this is expanding our database of people's metrics, their conditions, and the scores. And so, we have, I don't even know how many millions of scans they have as a company for all these decades, but from all the research companies and centers that do big ones, now we're going to have thousands of doctors that can help contribute to that database. And so I know they are constantly starting new ones. There's people approaching us all the time that want to do a study with our product as well. And
Yeah.
so, it's all about pushing that needle forward and helping people reclaim their life back in amazing ways. But I would stay looking at the GlycoCalyx website, glycocalyx. And there's a tab on there that says research, and you can dive deeper into that page and pull up categories. You can Google search, or you can search on that page any condition. And if there's already a study on it, they'll pull it up right there. And so it's very interactive. There's also a little AI bot that you can chat with and ask it any questions. And it knows all the studies, and it's very intuitive. It's amazing the kind of answers that you can get from,
That's
from
great.
that whole
Yeah,
program.
it's a wonderful website. Plenty of resources there. Okay, well, finally, what would you like our listeners to take away about the power of microvascular health and their opportunity to protect the hidden network of their well-being?
Well, I think that's most easily said, that the power that makes the body is the power that heals the body. And when two cells came together and in 9 small months created 70 trillion cells, the intelligence that did that didn't abandon you at birth and leave you victim to doctors. Okay. It is in you, it is within you, and it wants nothing more than to pull out the best version of yourself, line up with people like Dr. Julia Ward and people like myself and other people that are sharing the message of healing always comes from within. And when we find out better ways to take care of our frame and our bodies, you can find breakthroughs that you thought were impossible. I've seen so many miracles take place where people should never have gotten better. You know what? It wasn't our product, it was their body. You're the only one that can heal yourself. And your attitude about all of it, believe it or not, plays about 50% of the role of how much of that healing is going to take place.
Yeah.
So it's so important to stay in the proper thinking, okay? Because the thinking is going to help you. And that's why I'm known as the good news doctor. I want to bring hope and restore life back into your body that you might have been told by somebody wasn't going to happen. And you held on to that limiting belief and gave it power. Why would you give that power? They don't know you and what you're capable of doing and the amazing power that you have within you to heal. And when you can tap into things that are going to give more blood flow to each and every cell in your body, guess what? You're going to have new levels of healing. It's going to give you wings to fly into places that you've never imagined were still possible at any age.
Yeah.
Okay, it's amazing. Life is in the blood. Find ways to better distribute the blood, absorb the blood, and you're going to find your body does amazing things to get past whatever condition and label you put on yourself. Don't name yourself that label. That was a season of something you experienced.
Yeah.
The only label you should put on yourself is your name, because that's who you are at the end of the day. And that doesn't change. Okay. And so that might have been more than my last little quote to leave the audience with. Well, obviously, I'm passionate about all of that. And it's like, if I can do anything to help change the way you think about your life and your health and how you're going to manage yourself, then I've done my job. Like we can't tell you what to do and you just do it. You have to know why we're asking you to do it so you know how to better make decisions for yourself. That's what it all boils down to.
That's great. That is awesome. Well, thank you for joining me on The Functional Edge. I hope today's episode gave you fresh insights and practical tools to level up your life. If you found value in what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe and share the podcast with somebody who needs it. And leave a review. It's the best way to support our mission of bringing powerful health solutions to more people. For more resources, updates, and behind-the-scenes content, visit drjuliaward.com. Until next time, stay strong, stay healthy, and keep living on the functional edge.
Love it. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Julia.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me on The Functional Edge. I hope today's episode gave you fresh insights and practical tools to level up your life. If you found value in what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe, share the podcast with someone who needs it, and leave a review. It's the best way to support our mission of bringing powerful health solutions to more people. For more resources, updates, and behind-the-scenes content, visit drjuliaward.com. Until next time, stay strong, stay healthy, and keep living on the functional edge.